Okay, so here's your story about me stealing stuff. I was going to do this on Friday, like I said. Good Friday, good story. And like this has nothing really to do with Easter besides to say um, the one thing I can't stand is a thief and a liar, because that's the same thing my mom used to tell me when we were a child, pretty much. So I'll give you a little background and I'll get right into it. First off, we grew up poor, and I know there's plenty of people that were poorer than us, but I don't. I guess in some ways, in what you look at it, if you're extremely poor, you might look up to us as being fortunate. But when we were at the time, we just felt like this is what it was. But point being is, we did not have a lot, and my parents worked all the time. So just to give you an idea, my mom, she was an LPN. She did that, and she also, but she worked long hours, so that was pretty much her job. But she would have like long hour shifts, like 12-hour days. My father, on the other hand, he had 3 different jobs. He worked as a welder at this one place, and he worked at a place called Walker Winnebago, which was those like camper deals. He worked on those. And then the other thing is he was a motorcycle mechanic at the home, so 3 jobs. So the story takes place with him at home, working in our garage. So I'm 5 at this time, so I want you to understand this, I'm 5. And now, even at 5, my mom had said several times, the 2 things I can't stand is a liar and a thief. So you need to know that. So here's the story. So my dad's out there working in the garage, and he's working on this motorcycle, and much like all of you that are watching my channel, you probably had the same situation happen because it's so infuriating. It's where you set down a tool and you can't find it again. And you know it was right there, but you don't know where it went. I wasn't aware of this because I was 5, that actually happens a lot. But I hear him out in the garage. My dad, for the most part, he's pretty calm. He doesn't get really riled up, but he was angry. So I know he's got this motorcycle on there in the garage, and it's green. It's about the only thing I can tell about it. But he starts getting really mad because he can't find the screwdriver. And he's like throwing around stuff because he's like dumping the toolbox because he just had it and he can't find the screwdriver. So I'm going to help my dad. So you know what I do is I go get a screwdriver and I bring it back to him. So I go get him it's Phillips too. So I get him a screwdriver, look much like this. And I bring it back to him, and because he's like, "Where's that Phillips screwdriver? I can't find this." And then not only had he set it down, he then thought somehow we had moved it. But kids were different at the time, as we didn't bug our parents when they were working, for sure. That was a death sentence. So, but somehow he thought I moved it. So he was yelling at us kids, "Did you move anything?" And my mom inside just watching TV, just letting whatever happened. So I thought it'd be nice, and I'd go get him a screwdriver. So I bring him back a screwdriver, much like this. And he literally, I go, "Dad, here you go, here's a screwdriver." And I hand it to him, and he instantly picks it, looks at it, and looks at me just like that, and said, "Where did you get this?" And I thought, in my mind, I'm gonna be a hero, I'm gonna make my dad's day, I'm gonna make him so happy. I'm like, I brought him a screwdriver. And he goes, "Where did you get this?" And I didn't say anything because you know you're 5. He goes, "I know this isn't mine." And I know this now because, see this screwdriver? This is a plastic handle. His were the old style, and they were wood. So they had a wood handle. So for you old timers that watch my show, I shouldn't say old timers, just people that have been around and more experienced, you would know that there's these wood ones that had a wood handle, and it was like this that he got, and he knew it wasn't his. And so I said, he goes, "You got to tell me, or I'm gonna get that belt out." He goes, "They ain't afraid to spank you." And I point across the street. And I said, "I got it from over there." And what I had done is, the neighbor across the street, they always left their garage door open, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And his garage was so much nicer than ours. It was organized, one. It didn't have as much junk in it. He had the toolboxes were nice, and everything was put away. Compared to Dad's, it seemed like everything was scattered, much like mine, I guess. Much more organized. And so I just opened the toolbox, found the Phillips screwdriver, and brought it back and gave it to him. So I told Dad I got it from across the street. And he went from like angry to stoic anger, like a different anger. And he's like, "You just wait right there." And he goes inside and he gets my mom. Now, my dad will spank me, no problem, but the one you fear is my mom. She's like a kingpin, you know what I mean? So he goes and gets Mom and goes, "You know what your son did? He got this screwdriver from over there." And my mom, she goes, you know what that means? You're a thief. And remember, I told you the two things my mom can't stand is a liar and a thief. You're a thief. You stole that. And she just starts reading me the riot act. And you're a thief. We don't have thieves in this house. You know, we should just call the police. We should call the police. And of course, I'm 5, so I'm like bawling like a baby, obviously. And my sister, she's just enjoying the show. But she's like, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go over there and you're going to knock on his door with the screwdriver and you're going to tell him you stole it and that you're a thief. And so I'm crying and I'm scared to death because the neighbor next door is this. The neighbor next door, I'm not going to tell his name. He had always been nice to me. I want you to understand this. He had always been nice to everybody, come to think of it. He looked like the guy on the brawny paper towel roll. He had a mustache. He literally looked like that guy. Big, strong. That's what he looked like. I'm 5 and tiny. So I go next door. And by the way, the guy next door has a daughter that's like 1 year and a day older than me. So I know I'm going to be embarrassed anyway, but whatever. So I go ring the doorbell. He comes to the door and he's got a smile on his face, happy. And then he sees me crying. I've got the screwdriver. And my mom, meanwhile, she doesn't come with me. She's just watching from the porch. And the whole way I'm walking over there, she's like, you get over there, you thief. You tell him you stole it. You're a thief. I mean, it's not quiet. It's loud. Like, as in, if any kid was outside, they could hear it. Like, and I mean, not just my block, maybe blocks away. So I'm knocking on the door. He comes to the door. And I'm like, I'm a thief and I stole this. I took your screwdriver. Just like that, you know? And I'm like, the whole thing going, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I stole it. I'll never do it again. And so anyway, he, on the meantime, he went from like a kind of a happy face to stoic to panic and anger. Like panic and anger, like severe anger. But it wasn't like, you could just see like he had some hidden rage. It wasn't like he was going to hit me or nothing. He goes, which drawer did you get it from? I don't remember. Because I'm 5. And he goes, where is it at? Which drawer did you get it from? So anyway, he walks me out in the thing. And meantime, Mom and Dad are over there. And Mom's like, he's a thief. The whole time yelling, thief, that kid's a thief. You should call the police. So anyway, he takes me over to the toolbox. He goes, which drawer did you get it from? And I point to the one I think I got it from. And he goes, is that the only one you opened? And I said, yes, I think that's the one. And I opened up, and luckily that was a screwdriver drawer, and he took it and he put it back in. And he's like, don't you ever come in this garage again. This is off limits. So walk back across, and you would think the torture was over. You're incorrect. My mom, the whole way, yells a thief. And then, of course, I didn't get out of a spanking. Oh, no. She was just getting her arm warmed up while I was over there. Because she get that belt. So, wow! Like she could have played for the New York Yankees because she was swinging for downtown. Anyway, so definitely took a spanking. After that, and I'm not joking, for the next year, probably, if one of her friends came over, she would say, this is my son Eric. Now, you be careful with him because he's a thief. He likes to steal. Anyway, it was, which some of you right now are like, your mom is so cruel. Incorrect! Because you know what it did? It taught me not to steal. So some of the cruelest lessons you get in life are the most painful ones, but they teach you never to do certain things again. And I didn't. So it's a very powerful lesson. Now, as bad as that is, I'm going to give you one little bonus one. This is going to go super quick, which is when my brother stole. Because all 3 kids stole. And I don't, we didn't have anything, which you might say, well, that is the reason why you stole. No, you shouldn't steal, period. The only thing, I shouldn't say that. The only thing you should steal are like food, like milk, bread, which I don't know how you steal milk, but bread, you know, necessities. Stealing a screwdriver isn't one. But, so all 3 of us kids stole something. I'm only going to give you one more, which is my brother, because I think that one was worse than mine. It felt worse. But it was, from when I was watching, it was far more entertaining, if you know what I mean. If you got a younger brother, you're totally one of them in trouble. So here's his, and it's really quick. The most important commodity we always wanted to have was gum, like chewing gum, because we couldn't afford it. We'd ask our parents, no, and it's like a quarter, by the way. We just never could afford it. Parents wouldn't, they never spent any money on anything extra. We only got what we needed, period. So anyway, one time we would go to church. This is our Sunday school lesson. Parents never went with us to church. We had to walk down 6 blocks and go to church because they forced us to get dressed, walk down the 6 blocks, go to Sunday school, and then walk home. They never went with us. I shouldn't say never, very rarely ever went with us, and then we'd walk home. So anyway, we're walking home from church, my brother and I think my sister might have got away with staying home that day. Anyway, don't think much about it. We get back home, we got to take it out of our Sunday school clothes, take off our Sunday school clothes, put on our play clothes, and Matthew's chewing gum, which I'm like, did you get it at Sunday school because maybe somebody just gave him a stick of gum? He goes, no. I was like, where'd you get it from? He said, that tree. I was like, what tree? I found some gum sticking on this tree. And oh my God, right? So what my brother had done is he'd taken a used piece of gum off of a tree and started chewing it, not knowing that it had been in, he wasn't smart, at the time. And so he's chewing the gum that had been in someone else's mouth. Not only that, to get its flavor back, he put it in the sugar bowl, which is the sugar bowl my mom and dad got coffee out of. My mom, what we told her, because this was hilarious, we're laughing. Matthew got spankings for that like nothing else. Now, you might say, what did that have to do with stealing? So flash forward a couple months, we go to the store called TGNY. It doesn't exist anymore. It's like a Walmart. We leave the store and we get in the car and Matthew's chewing gum. Now, again, so I'm thinking, he better not have got a piece of gum from the butt tray. It's with the tray back when they had smoking in every place where people would put out their cigarettes, but sometimes there was gum in there. So I was like, hey, I hope he didn't do that. I was like, did you get the gum from the butt tray? He goes, no, shh, don't say anything. He goes, I'll share it with you. I was like, what do you mean you'll share it with me? And he had, pulled out his pocket and he had this packet of gum. And so I was like, oh my God. He's like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And of course I'm like, snitches might get stitches, but my mom will spank us either way. If she finds gum, any one of us have, all of us getting it. I'm not taking that. I already got her my lesson. Not to mention, the one thing I didn't tell you that she told me, which was the worst about this. Remember, we go to Sunday school and stuff. This is kind of right before Easter. She said, you know what's worse than being a thief? When you go to heaven, God's going to ask you, because whatever you stole is going to be in your hand. You won't be able to put it down. And God's going to ask you, where'd you get that from? And you're going to have to tell him you stole it. So for all these years, and I'm now 43, I've got a plan for that one. When I get to heaven and God sees this screwdriver in my hand, he's going to say, where did you get that, my son? I'll say, well, I think your gate's fixed and I'm here to fix it. That's my plan. Meanwhile, back to Matthew though. I'm like, I'm not taking that. That's not going to be up my hand in heaven. I'm not going to have gum and a screwdriver, and I'm not getting a beating. So he's like, so I tell mom, oh, this is a bad one. So mom marches my brother back into the store at TGNY, and it's busy. You could think about like a Kmart, but kind of it's kind of like a Kmart. And she goes, she's mad. She bebops right up to the register. I want to see your manager. She's never quiet. My mom is not quiet like that. When she's angry, everybody knows she's angry. I want to see your manager. So they think that they've done something wrong. When the manager comes up and she goes, you know what you got in your store right now? You got a thief. This kid right here. Go ahead and tell him. So she made my brother tell her that he stole the gun. And the manager, trying to be polite thing, that's the wrong thing to do, son. You should never steal. It's the wrong thing. It's very bad to steal. That could land you in jail for years. My mom, she's like, that's why you should call the police. Call the police. Get on the phone right now and call them up. You got a thief right here, everybody, right here. There's probably 40 people staring at us. And I'm like, at first I was so happy, tickled to death that my brother's getting in trouble. Then I'm like, I feel bad for him. And the manager's like, Dad, we probably should, ma'am. We probably should call the police. But I think he's learned his lesson. Because my brother, he's of course breaking down crying, like, please don't call the police. I don't want to go to jail. And so the manager's like, I think he's learned his lesson. Like, my mom, and I thought that was going to end. Nope. Mom was like, no, this kid right here needs to learn a lesson. Call the police. Call them right now. She is right in it. And the manager's at this point like, well, man, it's just a 50-cent piece of gum. I don't know that the police will do anything. Call them up, get them here. And it was bad. So eventually the manager was like, ma'am, our store policy, you know that what you've done wrong. Your mom's really trying to help you out. You better learn this lesson. You're never doing this again. We're going to have to ban you from the store. Yeah, you should ban him from the store. Call the police. And anyway, he's like, I think we're good there, but I can't really call the police. She's like, well, then this thief's leaving. Let's get on out of here. And she starts, and by the way, so this is in the 80s. So as she's leaving, one of the moms was right by the door. She's like, I hope you learned your lesson to our brother, right? There's other ladies doing the same thing because different time. Now it'd be like, that mom did it wrong. You a child abuser, public humility. That's shame. Your mother did it wrong. That's child abuse. That was parents right then were like, your mom, you might hate it now, but she taught you a lesson. You're going to be proud of this. Then the other ones that didn't do that would look down at their kid and goes, you want that to happen to you? It was amazing, different times. But anyway, there's your stories. Hopefully you have a happy Easter and enjoy it with your family and do good stuff. And guys, take care. Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. Today's Saturday, so it's like an update video. However, at the end of this video, I'm gonna do a little story at the end. I meant to film it and do it yesterday, but what happened is my son came out to talk to me in the shop. And if you have a teenager at all, you'll realize they rarely talk to you. So whenever they want to talk to you, you drop everything to spend time with them. So that's what I did. So I just didn't get it done. So I'm just going to put it at the end. It's about the time I actually stole something. It's a good, not so good story, but it's entertaining for sure. Anyway, so let's get to the updates. What's going on? Well, I'd say that's a cool intake. What's it for? This is a set of my Brodex DN9 heads. This is the best as cast intake that goes with the big block Chevy spread port head. What happened was a customer had ordered this for me to port, and then 3 days later canceled the order. And I don't know how other companies work, but if you ever cancel an order with me, I'll never do business with you at all. So once that's done, it's done. The reason why is because you end up losing money from a business standpoint, because now I have this intake and I'm not Walmart. I don't get free returns. It sucks. I've now had to send that thing back, so I'm going to eat the cost of shipping, and that thing is heavy. So I'm going to eat the cost of shipping plus the credit card fees. It just ain't worth it. So, but anyway, since it was here, I said, might as well mock it up, see what it looks like. And it's kind of good that he probably did cancel it because I didn't have his heads here, and I think it would have been a disaster because this intake is really meant to fit a multitude of spread port heads. And you have to do modifications to make it fit. So for instance, you see those bolt holes are supposed to be there? They're not, because they're actually down here. So what you have to do is you actually have to mill the ends to get it to sit right first before you can even start doing the port match. So anyway, I'm just curious to see what it looks like. It doesn't fit anyway. And you might say, well, why don't you just make it work? You can use it for this. I'm going to do a 2-4 setup on this whenever that I get to that, which God knows when that'll be. Anyway, let's get to the other updates. The intakes still haven't been put up because Keith only got some of them cleaned yesterday, which brings up something else. I said I was done testing intake manifolds on the dyno for this dyno mule until I switch heads. I'm not, because I want to try a few more things because I forgot to try some stuff. One of the things I want to test before I take off the heads anyway was this. I totally forgotten I had this. These are the push rods, but these are the 5/16 push rods. Currently, the dyno mule has a 3/8 in it. Since we'll be switching heads, chances are the push rod length will be different. So before I switch heads, I need to test this. See what the smaller diameter push rods, the thinner ones, do as far as power production. So I'm going to do another dyno session anyway. So since I was going to be on there, I thought I might as well get some more intake testing done as well. Keith, the guy that works for me, actually had the Team G. So he forgot that he had it. So we got to clean up and test that. But he also brought another one that we're going to test. So that's cool. I still need a Victor Jr. So if you're listening out here in the world, if you got a Victor Jr., please send it in. Someone said they might send in a Holley, the sheet metal one that they have that looks fantastic, but it's sheet metal. If they send that one in, I'll test that too. But I only really want to test a few. So I want to test this Team G, that Victor Jr., that Holley sheet metal one, if that person sends it in. If not, I'm not even going to bother. But the other one was one Keith also brought, which is this. You're like, what in the world is that? Let me explain. If you're in the circle track world and you're forced to run a cast iron intake, but it has to have like the firing order and it has to be a GM intake, this is it. This thing looks like it's a bad piece. Now, it's cast iron, so you're like, ugh, why would you ever run it? Remember, some rules have to. It's a dual plane manifold. It's a bow tie, and I hadn't seen this one before. There's a bunch of different variations for different cool GM ones. This one might be the ticket because its runners look so much bigger, and because of the spread bore pattern, even though you think you mount a regular carburetor on there, that plenum is so much bigger even than the RPM here. So I want to test that one just because I'm more curious than anything else, because that's legal for the class he runs, which is pure stock. You have to have a cast iron GM intake with firing order on it. So it meets all the rules. That'll be very interesting. Would you ever use this for race stuff anywhere else? Hell no. The thing weighs a ton. And it might make a lot of power, but you're losing a lot of, you're getting a lot of weight too. So, but I want to test that one. So a couple manifolds to test. Obviously want to try that one. The Team G, if a guy sends in the Victor Jr., I'll test that. And if sends in the Sniper, I'll test that too. Now here's something else cool. This is cool because this is for my son's car. Got these this week. That's right, it's a turbo. That's for my son's car. He wants turbos. I'm hoping some things work out on the dyno mule, and maybe we'll be adding boost to that and test what happens versus NA versus boost. It will not be a turbo deal, but something else, maybe. That'll be cool as well. However, that's for my son, so that came in. Here's another thing. This guy, I think he's going to start working for me next week, and that's going to be great because I needed people, and it is tough getting people. I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, I know you're like, what about those Ford heads? They're really close to being done, and I'm going to do a video on that, but it probably, just because I got so much other stuff recorded, it probably be a while for you to see that one. I've almost finished some small block Chevy Dash 15 heads, which are 15 degree, those bad boys. So those are almost done. So anyway, that's pretty much the update in the shop. Now let's get to a horrible story about the time I stole. So bear with me just a second as I switch the view.